All right. Good morning, everybody. Sorry for the minor delay. It's Coffee and Politics Online with Sydney Walker. And those of you who have been long-standing followers and fans of the show should recognize Judge Andrea Martin. She's been on before. She is the judge of the 304th District Court, which is in the Henry Wade Juvenile Justice Center.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning, and I apologize. It's my fault for the delay. I didn't know that downtown was all jacked up, so I was stuck on 30 and 35 for 10 minutes, just sitting there. But I was listening to gospel music so I wouldn't go off on people.
There we go.
Because I have a plate that says Martin, and so I don't want people to take a picture and say, you know what, she's
We
a problem.
saw her. Crashing out.
Yeah.
On 30.
Yeah. So it's my fault. I apologize.
You know what? And I should have given you a heads up on everything that they are doing on 30 because that is the Canyon project that is scheduled to be completed in 2030.
Wow.
Yes. So
but you know what? That stuff looks cool. And all this new stuff over here, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
They move everybody out?
Not really.
Oh, okay.
No. The homeless are getting shuffleboarded around. We expect that. The bridge construction that's happening, a lot of us forgot about it because, TxDOT and whatnot, they'll have their meetings well in advance before the actual project commences. So all of us are going, how are we supposed to get around? Yes. And I'm saying, while it was dark, not at the table to make sure that people got around more efficiently. And I will tell you, okay, so Judge Martin, just a little bit background about her. You've been in office in this bench since 2014.
I ran in 2014 and was sworn in January 2015.
2015,
yes.
Okay.
So I'm going on the fourth term.
There we go. And I do want everyone to know that March 3rd is Election Day. You can only vote in your precinct on Election Day. Haven't done this in 8 years or more, give or take. But find out where your precinct is. You can go to Dallas County Elections. You can look up to see where your precinct is and then look to see where your voting location is. But the great thing to do is to participate in early voting where you can vote anywhere in the county. Yeah. So make sure that your vote gets counted, okay? Because we need good judges, and you have been a steward for that courtroom since I've met you way back when in 2016, 2017.
No, I think wasn't it before then? Because I hit the campaign trail in 2013, which is when I started meeting lots of people.
So no, I met you after I became a precinct chair.
Oh, okay.
And that was at the end of 2015 when I became a precinct chair.
Okay.
So yes, and then I started doing the show in August of 2016. Gosh, you talk about a legacy here. Time flies. But one of the things that we need to know about Judge Martin here is that she is really an advocate for our children. Although she dispenses justice in her courtroom, she is really advocating for our babies because this is a life-changing courtroom.
It really is. It really is. And a lot of people think that, that the whole issue of going from the jail, for kids to the adult system is when you do the minor misdemeanors at 17. But no, it actually starts in the juvenile courts. Yes. My jurisdiction starts at 10 years old. And it ends at when they turn 17 and they're technically adults. So at 10 years old, I have 10-year-old rapists. I have 10-year-old murderers, 10-year-olds who are breaking and entering, burglarizing. And the hardest part is, I do believe that
you see my face.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize that's what I deal with. They think I'm doing truancy and things like that. No, I'm hearing murders for our kids.
You are hearing serious misdemeanors and felonies.
All the way up to capital murder. I actually had a capital murder trial 2 weeks ago after I got back from my vacation.
Ooh, what to walk into after being refreshed.
Yes.
Yes.
And, it's difficult because I have never given a 40-year sentence for a juvenile. Because juvenile courts are made, we're looking at rehabilitation. But sometimes the facts are so terrible it's necessary. And a lot of people don't think that. I tell people, I'm not worried about the adult that might be creeping up on me in a hoodie. I'm afraid of the cherub-faced child. They use that against us.
Yes.
And so I had a kid who at 13 killed a man, shot someone, stole cars, was driving, shooting out the car window, had this, stole cell phones, robbed a cell phone store. And he texted about it. Of course, he had it on Instagram. You know how they do? They like to video. That's how most of our cases are made. I tell kids when I go speak at schools, stop posting. They think because they have a fake name, because kids like to do that. My son talked about how he has several fake names. They think that we're not going to provide them anonymity, but it doesn't, because there is a unit. Police officers who all they do all day is connect people. So we get most of the evidence that's presented to me comes from what the kids put out. So he put out that he's, driving, shooting through windows. And so he ended up killing someone. And he had text messages to his mother about it, saying that, at first he felt bad that the guy, he remembered him falling on the ground screaming. He could be a dad. He's dying on the ground. But then he said, but you know what? It was a choice between me and him. And he should have just let me leave, because he was trying to steal from the store. He should have just let me leave. And so he killed this guy. And all the experts said, based on his history, because I listened to experts on both sides. He had his own doctors. The juvenile department had their own doctors. I have psychologists, all these people who give me all this evidence. And the evidence shows that he has a history of this since he was in first grade. And so, at kids under 18, you can't diagnose someone with a personality disorder. You have to wait until they're 18. But both doctors, his defense doctor and the doctor for the state, both came to the same conclusions, that he has all these things: starting fires, all these characteristics, bedwetting, hurting animals.
Yeah, I was going to say, hurting animals.
And they're saying because he's under 18, they can't diagnose him. But here we are.
But the evidence is pointing to...
Yes.
And while you were talking about that, that was a flag going up for me, was you're seeing them that young committing such heinous acts.
Yes.
And yes, I'm saying, oh my God, you are so psycho, whatever path. And yes, because the brain is still developing.
Right. And that's why the juvenile system is set up the way it is. Because although I gave him 40 years, that doesn't mean really 40 years in prison. Because he's 14 now. I just sentenced him. He's going to TJJD.
Okay.
Now, before he turns 19, before I lose my jurisdiction, he'll have another hearing in front of me where TJJD representatives will come and let me know how he did. If he showed any changes and if he's complied with all the things that they do to try to make him an empathetic part of our society. And if he does,
to mold him into
because we're still
adult.
Kids. Yeah. And so like clay, if before it gets hardened, it can be molded and changed. So he has the opportunity at that time to come before me and show that there's been a change. If it hasn't, he's on parole for the rest of the time, which I think is important, because if he's on paper for the rest of that time, it protects all of us.
Right.
Because I have to look at protecting the public.
Has oversight being provided on him. So
yes,
if there is a slip up,
yes,
we can start reading those tea leaves.
Yes. Yes. And it'll protect everybody, because I have to protect the public. Everyone, you, me, my family, friends, everyone in Dallas County. But if he doesn't do well, if he goes and acts like he did while he was here in detention, fighting everybody, trying to escape, all those things, he does that in TJJD, they're going to come back and give me those reports, and then I'm going to send him to TDC at that time. So the juvenile system is great because it gives an opportunity for there to be justice, but also for there to a chance for rehabilitation. Yes. Right. But I've never done a 40-year sentence, and that was difficult. I prayed about it, and every day I'm like, okay. And the state offered him 26, and he still wanted to go to trial. I'm like, if he knew there was going to be text messages, videos of him with his face in the same outfit, he wore the same outfit every day he was committing these crimes, I don't understand why he didn't take that offer. And, his whole family came as they do. And I feel bad for the family. The grandmothers who are laying out on the bench crying, begging for mercy. The mother who's crying. And I feel bad for the families who are hurting. But I have to weigh that with what that person has done, and also what, the victims and the protection again of the public, because the family code says I have to look at what would protect the public.
Yeah, what is best for the greater good.
Yes.
Yes. And I am sure that weighed very heavily on you.
And it still does. It still does. Because 40 years is a long time.
At 14. We're talking about being middle age,
yes,
when he would theoretically come out of the criminal system, right, or the justice system. And let's just say, once he turns 19 and he rolls over to the adult system, and then coming out at 54.
Yeah. But if that's what happens, it needs to happen, because what he has done, and he admitted to most of these things. He admitted to everything except for the murder, even though so I had to make the judgment on that with all the videos and his text messaging. So he admitted to robbing, shooting, all the things that he was convicted of.
Yeah.
So he had several first-degree felonies, probably about 6 or 7. He had second-degree felonies. He had all these cases that he admitted to. And so even though it still weighs heavily on me, because I've never done that amount of years, I think based on that evidence that came before me, that was what was proper in that case.
Oh, gosh.
And he still has a chance of mercy, because his family was begging for mercy. They said, listen to that little tingle in the back of your neck and make the decision. I said, well, you know what? He still has mercy, because he still gets a chance to come back. The keys to his freedom are in his hands.
Gosh. So talk about those experts, because that is something that I would like to see more in the courts, and not just in criminal proceedings, because it's definitely needed. And we're seeing more and more psychological impacts and effects of trauma. And yes, some people, they go to therapy, they become recluse, they don't take it out on other people. And then there are some people, the switch goes, well, hey, you or me.
Right.
And that's just, kind of the roll of the dice here. We can't predict how that's going to happen with people. But the experts. So talk about, their pedagogy and what they're bringing to the table as far as you listening to all of the evidence.
So part of me listening to experts is I've had to also train myself in the different things. So I do my own research. I love watching YouTube. You can learn anything on YouTube. But I understand when it comes to experts, everybody's going to have their side.
Right.
The defense is going to have someone who says what they want. The state is going to have. So I have to, just like when someone says, when it gets to the his and hers, it's, he said, she said, and whatever's in the middle. It's right. So I have to figure that out based on the fact that I continue to educate myself, because I know I'm not the smartest person. I'm not a medical doctor, and my son likes to tell me that all the time when I diagnose myself with pains and everything. Like, I don't know if you saw me limping coming in. So I'm not a medical doctor. I went to law school, but what I will do is research, and I don't follow just, a lot of people these days, they Google something and they have a slanted lean. And so if you have a slanted lean, you're going to find things that support that. And so you stop when you find that supports you. I keep going beyond that. I look at different sources. Yes. And then I listen to what comes in front of me at court. And then I make a decision based on the experts and then everything else that's in there. Because not only do I have doctors, I have psychologists, I have therapists, I have the probation officers who dealt with them the whole time they're in detention. I have the community partners who talk about, what happened in school. So I have a lot of things that come before me that help me make a decision, because, I don't always trust experts.
Why is that?
Well, and, and this is going to sound controversial, but a lot of times, there was times when I was practicing law, when I was a baby prosecutor, there were not a lot of experts that looked like us. Okay. And so when it comes to our community, a lot of times they don't understand. Like when I was a DA, when I was a baby DA back in 1999, 2000, doing child welfare cases, I represented Child Protective Services. Okay. And they were in an uproar when we had this family that this mother who they wanted me to go to court to terminate her rights because they felt they were hurting. She was emotionally abusing her child because they called her butt, she was a little toddler, and that was her nickname. And so they didn't understand. And I love social workers because they go to school, take out a lot of debt to do work they don't get paid a lot for. They get hurt going into these communities because they have a goal of making children, families better. But a lot of times they didn't have the experience with our communities. Mm-hmm. And so the nicknames, or sometimes they don't understand dreads. And so this child is being abused because his hair is just all ravelly and knotted up and ugly, and they need to cut his hair. So I have to come in
or sensitive scalps, and your child acting as if you were trying to cut their liver out.
True. Because in Texas, you can physically discipline your kids. Right. Child welfare has a zero policy for that. Yes. And so, I had to understand that it takes a perspective for someone who understands the community and the social norms within the community. Now, if it goes too far, because we have some social norms, like sometimes on the child welfare side, I've seen some who have beliefs that, and there's some religious beliefs where the woman is a slave. Yes. And the man runs everything. He can beat and do whatever he wants to the mother and all the children.
But
and that's
not
part
the
of their
case here.
Right. So I have to tiptoe through those things and explain that, I understand in your country you could do this, but this is America, and we have to do what America says. Right. So I try to have sensitivity and try to educate and understand those things. But unless you're open to understanding that different people bring different things to the table, different people grow up different ways, and it's hard for experts, getting back to the experts, to really understand those things that are cultural.
And believe me, I understand that dealing with the amicus, who was very, and I'm going to say it, and I'm going to try not to say her name, completely 100% biased.
And they can be, and especially just like caseworkers can be. If they don't like you for some reason, you're asking too many questions, especially as Black women. If we ask too many questions, we're seen as non-compliant, angry, we're hiding something. And so then that becomes combative, and that becomes how you're seen. Yes. And that's how you will be presented in court. Yes. So I understand that.
Yes, and I will definitely say, growing up in a household with my grandmother, and she was a domestic violence victim and survivor, and we didn't know about trauma.
Right. Because we didn't talk about it.
We didn't talk about it. And she would fly off the handle about a lot of things. Yes. And anyone who has talked to me on the phone and knows about the intern escaping, because she's an escape artist, have heard me, get your... And I'm putting the phone on mute because I am swearing at this 1-year-old dog to get her butt in the house. And she's looking at me like, oh, shoot, let me hurry up. TT getting after me. And culturally, that's how a lot of us that were born in the 60s and the 70s and part of the 80s, that's a social norm.
It is.
For us. And I can see...
people who are outside of our communities not understand. Yes. And then we're louder, we're more expressive. That's why a lot of Black men have issues with police, because, they want the Black people, and I think that goes, and we go back historically about how we're supposed to comply when anyone says anything to us. But when we talk back the way that other communities talk back, we're seen as combative and a threat. Yes. And so things escalate quickly because if you're not understanding our community, understand that's just the way we express ourselves. Us getting louder and more animated doesn't mean we're about to throw hands or shoot.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yes. And it's so funny that you mentioned that, because I dated a guy who was first generation Italian. And you talk about loud and expressive. My God. He made me look like a Girl Scout. And people who know me and watch the show know I talk with my hands, and I am naturally loud. And gosh, I was looking at him like, oh my gosh. But again, having that sensitivity, because like you said, it doesn't necessarily mean that somebody is angry, they're a threat, things are just escalating. It's just, this is what my norm is. And understanding how that shapes our kids, but looking for those indicators that are saying, hey, something's not right.
Right.
Because my heart was dropping when you were talking about this 10-year-old and all the things that they had done and saying, baby, how did your mind go there?
And a lot of people want to say, well, it's because we don't have fathers in the house. And that's not true. I have a lot of cases where fathers are in the house. Mothers and fathers in the house is important if there's not toxic there, because mothers and fathers can be toxic and we put that into our kids. But again, we don't recognize it because historically this is what we were doing. This is how we were raised. We saw everybody parenting this way, talking kids this way, doing this way. And so until you are open to thinking about it a different way, you don't know that it could be something different that you could do that would be better for your kids. And then sometimes when they come in front of me, they're hostile. And I have to explain, I understand. I grew up this way too. And I believe that sometimes, kids, you may have to physically discipline them, but discipline is better than abuse. If you're coming here and the child is arms broken, that's not discipline.
No.
If the child has bleeding wells, because I understand sometimes with the lighter skinned kids, they would remove because of that, and I would be like, no, this is
gosh, because my grandmother would have been picked up right a long time ago.
Right. But it's a difference, and you can tell the difference if you are open to understanding different community norms. So I think that's what helps me as a judge too, because when I first took the bench, a lot of times CPS would not place with family because they're like, well, they only have 2 bedrooms, they don't have beds everywhere, they don't have a lot of money. And I would say, and I tell the same story now, I just actually told it again last week. I said, y'all who've been before me since 2015 have heard me talk about my grandmother. She may not have had everything, but she had some beans. And me and my cousins be out laid on the floor. And all of my cousins have master's degrees. I'm a lawyer. We made it. Right. Money doesn't make you, money can help. Money doesn't make a family. What makes a family is love and protection.
So when family members are pleading for mercy and grace in the courtroom, so if you're just tuning in, I'm sorry, because this is like very needed education about our juvenile court system. And we're here today with Judge Andrea Martin of the 304th District Court in the Henry Wade Justice Center, Juvenile Justice Center, discussing, cases that are coming before her and kind of how she comes to determining sentencing after listening to experts and the evidence being presented. And children want guidance, discipline, and love.
Yes.
They want you to put into them more so than buying them things. Yes. Like, it's great to be the kid that's sporting the latest and greatest, but if mom, dad, or both are not present, that makes a huge difference in somebody's life.
And a lot of times I see that too. Because when you grew up poor and didn't have stuff, then when you have kids, you want to give them everything that you didn't have.
Give them what you didn't have.
And so that's a wonderful thing. But you still have to remember that you have to parent the kids. And if you're out now a lot of times people have to work 2-3 jobs to make the ends meet. Right. But if you're working 2 and 3 jobs because you want to make sure that first day of school your child has the brand new Jordan, whatever, I don't even know what they wear, whatever it is now that they come with like a fashion statement. Right. And then you can't pay your rent because your child is wearing the rent, that's out of order.
Right.
And then you're out of the house because you're trying to maintain that lifestyle. Because
that facade.
Yeah, because you're fulfilling what you missed. But what you're missing out on is the fact that your child is suffering because you're not there.
Right. And that is a huge, huge thing. And kids understand that, when you don't have money and you're not able to afford the latest and the greatest, but the biggest thing is that they remember the memories that you create with them. And when you were talking about that, it reminded me of when I had you and Vaughn on and was talking about entitled kids, because I've had some stepchildren. Woo! Entitled. Like, I'm entitled to internet. Baby, no, you're not.
And when I go back to school speeches to different community centers and churches, I did a 1-page sheet where I talked to the parents about why you need to parent your kids.
Right.
This is your internet. You own the internet. I know you want to be
Bill
friends.
comes in your
Yeah,
name.
you own the internet. Shut that off if your child is not doing well in school, or if they're not behaving, or they're disrespecting you. I would shut Oliver's phone off real quick. Real quick when he was in school. If he didn't respond to me, or if he didn't do what he was supposed to do, I would just shut it off. Shut the internet off from my phone. I would tell parents, you need to know what's going on with your kids, because their life is on that cell phone. You should not be able to be locked out of the phone that you're paying for. That's your phone that you allow. And you let Oliver tell it. He'll say, yes, this is the room you're letting me live in. This is the phone that you're letting me make a phone call on. Because I would go to his school and look inside of his lockers and see what's going on. I would go and search his room like I was a cop, pulling out the drawers, looking under the beds. And the reason I tell parents to do that is because a lot of parents don't know what's going on with their kids, because you want to believe that your child's an angel, has the halo on and everything. But the reality is we don't know how our kids are outside of our presence. And a lot of the evidence I get of drugs, thefts, robberies, they find it because it's under the kid's bed, or the gun is in the room. The parents are like, where'd they get the gun from? My child doesn't have a gun. It's right here.
Maybe
you don't look at
you are paying the house,
but you don't go in the room.
But you are not going in that room.
You're not looking in the bag. You're not looking in the purse. When they are outside of your house, they have, and actually if they're still in your house, because my Oliver's in school at 21, he's in my house. He still doesn't have the rights as someone who lived on their own. You need to know what's going on for your child's protection, because a lot of parents will say, well, it's the people he's hanging out with. Well, maybe so, but he's with them. And in Texas, the law party says if that person he hangs out with robs someone, so did your child.
Yes. So thank you for the service that you provide in the community, because I don't think that parents really understand.
They don't. And it's not that they don't want to. They don't realize what they have to do to make sure their children are safe. And especially when it comes to trafficking, which is big in this area. A lot of girls, I tell parents, make sure you know and boys too, but definitely girls, make sure you know who they're talking to. Check their social media, their inboxes, because these men will make them think they're in love. And they're going to run away from your house and you will never see them again. Because girls and teenagers, all those hormones, emotions, and you're not feeling the best about yourself. But this grown man comes and starts buying you stuff.
To be a teenager sometimes, but showering them with
attention and gifts and making them feel special. And they're going to listen, mom and dad, they're going to listen to this person more than you. You have the first 10 years of their life to get it in them, because once they hit middle school, high school, you're not important. I would tell Oliver, I'm a cool mom. I'm not like other moms. But the reality is,
you snap that wig.
Right. And the reality is, we are not cool to our kids once they become older. They love us to death, and they still love us, but they love us to death when they're young. But once they start middle school, they're supposed to. They start developing their own identities, their personality. That's normal.
And testing the waters,
testing
boundaries.
Which is when discipline is so important. Boundaries don't move the boundaries back, because I have friends who are so afraid that their kids are going to stop liking them that they spend all their money on buying stuff for their kids when they can't pay their own bills.
So, again, that show, that was a stepchild that I had at that time that was acting like that. And talk about trafficking. So this little baby, and I still love him to this day, even though I haven't talked to him in almost 5 years, was on the verge of getting trafficked. Found somebody on the internet, and they're talking on Discord and whatnot. And I'm nosy.
Good.
Look, I didn't birth you, but I cooked food for you.
Right.
Helped shape and mold you, and having all kinds of problems and attitude problems. And Dad was very laid back and very quiet, understated. Woo, but look, if he got pissed off, I was having to intervene and get in between him and children. And so something said, check that laptop. And I went in and logged on and saw him having a conversation with this person on his tablet. I was like, if you don't get your butt off this tablet and pay attention to your teacher, is right. The person. What's happening? I'm happening. His stepmama is happening. Shut it down. He came home furious.
Of course.
furious, was ready to.
Because they don't think we understand. They know more than us. They know this person. This person's not gonna hurt them. That's their friend.
Right. So had an incident where he decided he was gonna run away. Found him in a field. And they were in Denton County, so the sheriff, and it was an unincorporated area, so the sheriff came and they located him. And I told one of the sheriffs, I got in his face, and I was like, please, I said, put handcuffs on me, because I'm about to skin a child, and this child ain't even mine. But it was my nerves being on edge and knowing what could happen. So when he came home and was pissed off at me, and I'm sitting there listening to him, and he was like, you're invading my privacy. I'm like, first off, you have no privacy, because your daddy pays all the bills in the house. So stop that. I said, number two, I said, that was a grown adult that you were talking to. No, it wasn't. I said, baby, they don't live here, right? No, they don't. I said, so they're talking to you when you're supposed to be in school, and when you're home in the evening and at nighttime, they're not really as accessible. I said, but I can tell how they're typing, their sentence structure and whatnot. This is an adult. I said, and they've already tested you. Yeah. You left home. Yeah. I said, so it'll be nothing to say, hey, I'm in town visiting a relative, meet me here, da-da-da-da. I said, next thing you know, you gone. I said, your daddy is going to come unglued. I said, his brain is literally going to melt if you disappear and we can't find you. I said, and here's what's going to happen to you. Every hole you got going to get filled with something. And I'm sorry to break it down like that, but
you have to make it plain, because kids feel they're so invincible. I remember being a teenager, feeling like my mother knew what she was talking about, and I knew more, and I could do whatever. But for grace, I know that I could have been gone. For real. For the ancestors, grandmother, great-grandmother, all of them praying for generations to make sure that I didn't get hurt. Because I did stupid things. And kids are supposed to do stupid things from time to time. Yes. But these days, it's different. And we have to protect. Because as you said, I want to tell parents, you don't want to, you want to tiptoe around your kid, not invade their privacy. But what will happen is your kid will be snatched. And then they're going to be sold over and over and over. The ones we are able to find and who've been trafficked, they're forced to be raped, not have sex, be raped multiple times an hour, just there.
And filled with drugs,
if they're lucky. If they're lucky, and I say that because if they're lucky, they have drugs so they can at least go numb. Right. But a lot of times they're just put out there, and you can't escape. It's a whole business. Trafficking is more money than drugs. Trafficking, selling boys and girls, men and women.
And all of the evidence that is coming out from the Epstein files. Hello?
Well, it's not important anymore because he just likes young girls, 15-year-olds. It don't matter.
Well, and just the fact that, these grown men talking about these girls and fingering them, and one person choked out a baby, and so the thing that turned that one child around, I said, when you're no longer cute and the fresh piece of meat, you're going to find you out there. They're going to make you become the pimp and find the new
that's what
kid.
Happens. Yeah.
And that was the light bulb moment. That, wait a minute, what do you mean? Yeah. I'm going to find another kid like me. Yeah, baby. Because nobody's going to want you. You're going to be too old. You're going to be used up. Yeah. I said, and once again, your daddy's brain is going to melt right out of his body. And that is the thing that as teenagers, you don't think about, the impact on your family, let alone the community. Yeah. So to talk about, the work that you're doing in the community, because as a judge, that's one thing I will say about Dallas County judges. Y'all are very visible. Because I remember growing up, we didn't know any judges.
Me neither. But I think that's important because for us to, if you stay, like a lot of politicians have been in office for decades, and they become out of touch with what's going on.
Right.
A lot of politicians don't know how much eggs are, groceries are, bread, things like that, because you're so lofty that you forgot those things. And so for me and all of my other colleagues, we stay active in the community because that's what we hear what's going on. We can see what's going on. It's one thing for someone to tell you, but it's filtered through how they want you to
perceive it.
Yes. And so it's important that we stay active. And also when we're in the community, it allows us to talk to people so that they are educated about the system. And so they understand that, yes, we're going to be approachable, and out here we'll be friendly and we'll laugh it up and everything. But
once on that
but when we're on the bench, then you understand that, yes, we know you, we've met you, but that doesn't mean we're going to favor you or anyone else. We're going to do what justice says we have to do. So I think that's why it's important that we do that. That's why I've been active on my social media, because it allows people to get to know who I am. Because, this is an elected position. It's time for people to go for re-election, and some people are being challenged. And I think it's important for people to get to know who I am, because if someone decides to run against me, they're going to spin the narrative. And so people who know me and actually have followed me know that I've always been consistent. And even when people come before me, they know I'm always consistent. They know what I'm going to do, because I'm going to follow the law. I'm going to listen to what you say.
Right.
I'm going to put families first, especially with child welfare. I'm going to put families first, because that's what the law says. And so they know what to expect. And I think that lowers the playing field to make it more open and accessible, because if you just go into court and you don't know what to expect,
it's very intimidating.
It's scary, intimidating.
Yes.
And so I want to make sure people understand that we can be approachable, that we are human.
And one thing that is very different about Judge Martin's courtroom is that she does not wear a black robe.
I don't.
You're still wearing your navy robe.
It's a royal blue, and I have a purple one too. And I do that because going to court, and I have the black one for ceremonial purposes. I'll put that on. People like that when I go somewhere with the black robe, because it's traditional. But when it comes to going to court, I don't always wear a robe. I wear clothes, because think about it, I'm dealing with family and children. I'm dealing with kids, and so I'm trying to let them see that I'm still sitting on the bench, but I'm not trying to be I don't want to be so fearful to them to where they shut down. And then when it comes to families, I'm dealing with indigent people. And so a lot of times they're coming to court and they don't always have the best clothes on. And so I don't want them to feel so afraid to come and be themselves and present their cases by me being stuffy with a black robe on. So if I put a robe on, it's usually going to be blue, or I have a purple robe. I try to do color because, in my courtroom, I have artwork that the kids in detention have done. Okay. I want to make my courtroom as cozy as I can be, if it can be dealing with what I deal with.
Right. Yeah, because it's very serious.
On both sides. The child welfare side, where people are killing and breaking bones to their kids, raping their kids, to the juvenile delinquency side, where kids are raping kids and killing folks. And so both sides, it's hard. My happiest days are when I do adoptions. And I love doing themed adoptions. I dress up for Halloween, me, the dog, and Oliver were the Addams family. I was Wednesday. The dog was Wednesday with her little pigtails. Oliver was Pugsley. And for Christmas adoptions, Oliver was Santa. The dog had a Santa suit on, and I was an elf.
Oh, my gosh.
So, I always try to bring happiness to the court.
Yes. Yes. 9 times out of 10, that's not what we see, because as adults, we are accustomed to what we're seeing on TV.
Yes.
Dealing with, capital murders, the most heinous of crimes that we're seeing on TV. So we're assuming that everything is that way, and that's not the case. And for those of you, I tell y'all all the time to go and visit the courtrooms. I have come down there and visited and have seen children graduating through the programs that you administer. And it is a good thing to see that life is being restored. Yes. Because that's what the correction program is supposed to be. To change someone's life, course correct them so they're not coming back before you. And unfortunately, there are just some of those cases, like the one that you spoke about, that's just like, oh my gosh, we're all going to pray for you.
Yes. And even the wife of the man who he killed prayed over him in court as she was giving her victim impact. She said, you know, I'm praying for you that this makes a difference, that you come back better than you are now. Now, I mean, he didn't seem like he was bothered by it, or because both doctors said he lacked sympathy. But, you know, she did that because, I mean, we want the best for our kids, because eventually they're going to be in charge.
Right.
And that's scary if we are not doing right by our kids.
Discipline.
Yes.
Discipline.
Yes.
I'm not
Discipline
saying
means love.
I'm not saying crack them over the head.
No, that's abuse. Discipline is different from abuse.
But they need to understand that they have to pay rent for the life that they have here. And they're in a place of learning. Because even with my oldest, still trying to compete with me to this day. And granted, she's 21 now. And the tide is changing with our relationship, where it's not so much, well, mom is mom. You know, what does she know? I know everything. She's actually starting to come around.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
And that is just kind of part of the process.
Right.
Because we've all been that hard-headed teenager. Because God knows I was a hard-head to my grandmother, and they made for a soft behind.
Right.
So, and you're very active with your sorority.
Yes, that's a Super Sorority Incorporated.
And just really understanding, so how does the public embrace you when they do see you out?
You know, it's funny. It's funny because I didn't really understand the impact of people seeing me on social media, following me on my TikToks, and seeing me garden with my chickens, and when I'm working out.
Baby, look, I've almost wanted to just come and camp out.
But you know, when it's funny though, because when people see me in person, they get so excited. It's like, I guess the way I would see a movie star. Yes. And so there was once somebody asked me for my autograph. I'm like, please, I'm a judge. I watch you on this and this and this. So people get excited.
Yes.
But then there's that other side where you locked my kid up and it was the other kid's fault. I mean, you could have given my child the other chance. And if I lock someone up, that means they've had a lot of chances. In the juvenile system, before we get to sending someone to TJJD, we send them home on probation. We send them to community programs. We send them to the local places. Okay. If they're going to TJJD, that means they have a lot of chances.
Oh, wow.
But you know, I get it as a parent. I wouldn't see that either.
I'd be mad. Want to see your baby,
and I'd be mad too. Yeah. I tell parents sometimes. I say, I understand, like the mother who came with the murder case. You know, she was trying to help her child, hide him and things like that. I said, I would probably do the same for Oliver. I would make them prove their case. I'm not going to let them come in my house and search for nothing. If they showed me a video of Oliver dismembering 20 people, why did they end up on his knife? They should have known better. So I get it as a parent. You love your child. Yes. And no matter what, Jeffrey Dahmer's mother, even when I watched that trial, they tried to get her to say bad things about her son eating people. She let her steal my baby. So I get it.
Yes. But I would tell you, St. Anthony, Hedera's math teacher, she was like, she's really trying, y'all know this child. I see her at home. She's not trying to do her work. She's trying to lay some game on you. Right. And I'm telling you, the cheat code to not believe the game. So I was that parent. But
we need to be active. And I know it's hard because a lot of people have to work, and then you're tired when it's parent-teacher night. Oliver was so tired of me going to everyone. I went to everyone. And, you know, there's so many parents who weren't there. And then something happens and you want to complain, but you weren't here the whole time to see how your child is acting with this teacher.
You have to be active. I mean, my child, the first one went to private school. I was there hanging out. Even when the baby brother showed up, we were still going. And she was acting a fool at St. Anthony. I said, I will MC Hammer. Can't touch this.
Yeah. But we have to be active. And even if you can't go in person, the teachers have emails. Mm-hmm. Stay in touch and see what your child is. See how your child is acting when they're not in front of you. Because Oliver went to private school too, and then he went to public school his last 4 years. And he would be tickled at how the kids cursed out teachers at Cedar Hill High School. In private school, that's not accepted. But he talked about lunchtime. That was like the WWF every day. It's like, let's get ready to rumble at the lunch in the cafeteria. And so parents don't realize what their kid is doing because, like, again, we want to believe our child has the halo on.
And we forgot that we had no halo growing up ourselves. Come on.
Right.
Now.
That's the best part. I didn't think about that. That is the best part right there. That is true.
We had zero
That's
halos.
true.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
true.
And as strict as my grandmother was.
Still did the food.
I
did.
stuck around.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Baby,
Me
and
too.
when mom found out that I was doing something, my grandma was like, yeah, get it, because I'm tired of it. And
Right,
I'm just
right.
sitting there going, why don't you get me? I don't respect this one right here screaming at me. I'd rather get it from you.
Yeah.
But that we want to be their friends when they're 30.
Right. Parent them and let them make it safely through adolescence to be able to be friends when they're grown.
Yes.
Because otherwise, you'll be parenting through bars or you'll be visiting a grave.
Right. And it's enough that, with all the technology that we have, I'm at the place where I'm ready to start bringing out map scopes. We're going to learn how to read a map. We're going to follow a map. We are not GPSing ourselves here. And I have an artist and taking him to exhibits as Nigel, my youngest, so he can experience other types of art and mediums and and figure out what style that he wants to do. And I'm like, let's get away from the electronics. Mm-hmm. And it reminds me of my statistics instructor at TWU. He made us do all the computations by hand. We could not have a calculator on any of our exams, and he said, what's the point? If you don't know how to do it, you won't understand what the machine is doing for you. Hats off to that man, because I was pissed. But I got it. And it's okay to do some old school things with our kids. So I know that you are on a schedule. Again, Judge Andrea Martin of our 304th District Court in the Henry Wade Juvenile Justice Center. Early voting starts on February 17th and it ends on February 27th, where you can vote anywhere in Dallas County. The primary election is on March 3rd, where you have to vote in your precinct. If you don't know where your precinct is, please look it up at the Dallas County Votes. Find out where your precinct is and then find out where your voting location is. So any closing words with our juvenile justice system and the advocate that you are for our babies?
We're doing our best. I started in the juvenile courts when I started my career as a lawyer in Judge Cheryl Lee Shannon's court down the hall. She's my presiding judge. I'm in the 304th. I preside over that, but Judge Shannon is in charge of both of us. So she's my wisdom. If I have questions, I can just go right down the hall. But our philosophy is we're going to put children and families first. We're going to do whatever it takes on the JD delinquency side to have the kids end up better and the families better than when they started. And when it comes to the child welfare system, we're going to do what we can to make sure that children are out of foster care with families, family members, church members when we can. We want all children on both sides to be safe. We want the community to be safe. And so that's what I've been doing since I ran in 2013. Praise God, I'm unopposed in this election, but please still check my name on the ballot. And Oliver gets to vote for me this time for the first time, so I'm excited about that. But we are here wanting to protect our children. That's my mantra, protecting our children. And although you may not always get the outcome you want, just know that we're going to be fair and give you your chance to present your case. So thank you and thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for coming back on. It was great having you back here to discuss the juvenile justice system and why we need to understand how our government works for us. So this is just another layer of our government. And again, I stress, go visit your elected officials, watch what they do. These are our courtrooms. They all work for us.
Yes. Yes.
Public servant here. I've been doing you for years now, and it was a pleasure to come into your courtroom and watch proceedings and just, have conversation with you. So I appreciate what you do in the community.
Well, thank you.
And thank you so much. So again, I'm going to let you get out of here. She has some endorsements to go and take care of. So again, it's the weekend. It's a little chilly out there. Bundle up, but do what is the most important thing. Spend time with your loved ones. Pour into each other, because our kids, future society, and we help make the society that we want to see. So again, see you next Saturday at 10 o'clock here at Mocha Coffee and Tea. You take care.